Are you or someone you know looking to buy or sell a home? When you use a HomeGain Realtor to buy or sell a home, you can get $150. Visit HomeGain.com and click on the Promo 150 banner at the top of the page to get started. Compare HomeGain Realtors and choose your favorite. Complete your home purchase or sale transaction with a HomeGain Realtor, and HomeGain will pay you $150. Get started today by going to HomeGain.com.
Welcome back, everyone, to Real Estate 360 Live. I'm your host, Ryan Sloper, joined today by my guest, Cammarosano, the general manager of HomeGain. Reminder, Real Estate 360 is designed to build the Washington, D.C. Metro's market by giving you good free advice. Guys, if you ever have any questions, concerns, or real estate needs, the best number to reach out to us is 877-245-2030. Like I said, if it involves trying to get your credit fixed so that you can purchase a home, whether you're struggling to obtain a mortgage and need to be working with a professional that can guide you in the right direction to make sure that you are successful in obtaining a home loan, it might not be tomorrow, might not be a month from now, but maybe, in 6 months to a year time, you can put yourself in a position where you qualify. You need to do that. I mean, it's great to be able to know that you have that firm approval in hand, that you find the house and it 30 to 45, 60 days later you close. 877-245-2030. Lewis, I wanted to touch on there was an article, I believe it was on the KCM blog, Keeping Current Matters, but they were actually discussing a study that was done by, I believe it was Professor Knight. And what it was a study on the harmful effects of changing a listing price of homes. And I thought it was, a good little study. I mean, I think that it kind of actually makes sense. It's pretty common sense to me. But what they did was they went in and looked at all the properties that were, listed at a higher price than probably market value would have been, because most of the time sellers, you and I know that they like to think that the property is worth more than it really is. Yep. So they tend to overlist it, or the agent that they're working with lists it at that higher price, and then ultimately ends up having to change that price, lower it down drastically. Well, the study went in and basically showed that on average, properties which experience a listing price change take longer to sell and suffer a price discount greater than similar properties. Furthermore, the bigger price changes are found to experience even longer marketing times and greater price discounts. And finally, as for which properties are most likely to experience a price change, Knight found that the greater the initial markup, the higher the likelihood that any given property will experience a listing price change. So, I think what this really goes to show, and it would be nice if all sellers would get their hand on this study before they choose to list their property, because, it's great for, the agent to just tell you what you want to hear. And, okay, you think your property's worth $350, but the market value is $325, and the agent just goes along with it. I don't think that that's a great way to go about, listing your home. I think that you need to be working with an experienced agent that's going to tell you where to price the home, that's going to, A, be able to sell in the shortest possible amount of time, and B, not have to worry about, having to discount the home because you're overpriced. I mean, it's just a bad way to go into the sale, knowing that property is worth only one thing, but trying to get above that.
And Ryan, I'll give you an example from the HomeGain survey. Let's say that someone thinks this is what realtors tell us, that the homeowner thinks their home was worth $350, and the agent thinks it's worth $325. Well, then they'll end up listing it maybe for $325, and then because of the delay they might have had, that it ends up selling for lower than the listing price. So you have that psychology that people think there's something wrong with the house when you see those steps down.
Yep.
Maybe it gets listed too high, it stays on the market too long, and then as the survey shows and the study shows, people tend to discount the house even more.
And, if you're
on the market, there's damaged goods. And there may be nothing wrong with the house. It was just marketed incorrectly.
Yeah, well, and take this, for instance. Let's say that I'm not the listing agent. Let's say I'm the selling agent. I'm bringing the buyer to this home that is now, started at $350, and then it's been lowered to $340, $330, $320. It's now $320. It's been on the market for 60 to 90 days. Well, I'm looking at that. I'm telling my buyer, well, it looks like they're in a position where we're going to be able to negotiate down even further, right? Because that days on market is a key number that most real estate agents are going to pay attention to.
And sometimes what they do is they take it off the market, wait a few weeks, and then they put it back up at a regular price.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because, I mean, you can check back the history in all these properties, and, you know, the smart agents are doing that. So you need to be really smart about how you go about putting the house on the market, what price initially, because it is critical. I think, you know, you want to be able to you know, you can push the envelope a little bit, but that's not like, you know, a $25,000 increase. You know what I mean? If the last thing is sold
first, that's when the new homes come on the market. They want to look at them, and if they see one and they go, too expensive, that house doesn't get a second look.
Yep. And, you know, ultimately at the end of the day, like if you choose to list it higher and it's keeping on, now it's been on 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, you also have the cost of continuing to make more mortgage payments.
Right.
So you have more costs associated. So your net, the actual net that's going to be coming to you after the sale is going to be less and less the longer things linger on.
And competing homes are going to see your home, and what they're going to do is they'll price their homes accordingly to make sure that their home sells over your home.
Yeah, because you'll
have 60 days worth of comps that are lower.
Yeah, I mean, your price decrease, and they're going to say, well, obviously, if it didn't sell at this point, I need to be maybe a little bit less than they are, and, you know, you just continue to put yourself in a worse position. So, you know, I think that this is a good little bit of advice. I mean, especially for people that are considering, you know, selling their home in the next, you know, month or two or three, or any time in the near future. You know, make sure that, you know, you're working with an agent. Let the professional do their job and evaluate what has sold in there in the last 2 to 3 months in your particular subdivision, your neighborhood, with comparables that are you know, very similar to your home. I know that one of the things that, you know, as sellers, you'd like to say, oh, well, there's another house around here that's sold for this. That's what I think my house is worth. But little do they know what is actually in that house. Maybe there's, you know, an extra 500, 600 square feet that your house doesn't have. I mean, it's very easy to just say, hey, well, there's a house up the street for sold for this, so I feel like mine should be worth that. But that's why you need to hire the professional that's going to break down and say, okay, your home is a 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath townhome, and the one that sold with similar square footage up the street just sold for, you know, $260. I think that, you know, there's 2 other comps that support this value, and you price accordingly. Don't just go off of, hey, my neighbor sold their house for $300, because most people don't tend to tell the truth.
Also, Ryan, doesn't it depend on why the seller is selling, and do they absolutely have to sell at that price, or they just want that price? Because if they absolutely have to have a price and the realtor's telling them you most likely won't get it, then it doesn't make sense to put it up there. If they just like to have that price, then, you know what, have a shot at it. Maybe you'll get lucky.
Sure. Yep. And you know, I think it's my ultimate goal with my clients is, what is your end goal? What is your end goal? Is it that you want to make $50,000 on this property?
Or you're willing to walk away?
Or you're willing to walk away? Or is it that you want to upgrade your family to a bigger home? Because don't let the money get in the way of the end goal, because typically what's going to happen is that, okay, let's say you have to give up a little bit more than you wanted to on your property. You're going to be able to probably negotiate on the other side and get a reduction maybe in the sales price on a new home that you're buying. So, and this is all depending upon, you know, what areas you're buying in, you know, how competitive those local subdivisions or neighborhoods are. But just remember that you have to start with the end goal in mind. Don't get sidetracked by $5,000 or $10,000 if it means that you're in a current mortgage that you're paying 5%, but then the new mortgage you're going to be able to take out is in the 3s. I mean, there's a lot of, you know, upside to buying a new home and taking advantage of extremely low interest rates, other than just what you're going to cash out of your existing property.
You got to look at the totality of the transaction, not the one side of it.
Absolutely, and I think that it's very easy as a seller to only get caught up in what is going to be my bottom line, right? I mean, that's typically what most sellers want to know. I need to make X amount of money. Well, I'm here to say that it doesn't always work that way. And, you know, if you go about it differently and you say, okay, well, what is it going to require me to buy this other house? How much of a down payment am I going to need, right? So if you know all those things, and, you know, by selling your home at market value is not going to give you enough down payment to buy that other house, then maybe you shouldn't put your house on the market right now, you know, unless you're just testing to see if you can get that. But, if you know that you want to move up, because a lot of people right now are in the process of, I want to be able to take advantage of these low interest rates. I want to be able to move from my townhome to the single family, because you can probably, if you got a little bit of a down payment, you can probably have pretty similar mortgage payments just because of the difference in interest rates. Now, I know I'm going to get slammed. A lot of people are going to say, well, I would love to do that, but I can't because I'm upside down. And I wish I had better news for you guys. The national statistic is almost 1 in 3 homeowners. When you look up and down your street, 1 in 3 houses on your street is going to be upside down. So you're going to say, what do I do? Well, unfortunately, Congress and everyone else has made it seem like that there's just all these programs out there that are going to help you. They help a few people. They don't help the majority of the people, though. You can try to obtain a loan modification, which are very difficult. Very few go through. You could try that route. If you're unsuccessful there, and it really matters is if you're struggling to make your mortgage payment, or you're just trying to do it strategically because you just want to buy a new house. If you want to buy a new house, the only advice I can really give you is most lending guidelines say that you need to have your property rented out for at least a year before they can, and it has to be shown on a tax returns before they can count that rental income coming in, so you don't have to count that full mortgage payment against you. Because most people are not going to be able to qualify carrying 2 mortgage payments. Would you agree with that, Lewis?
Oh, of course not.
Right. So if the only thing
they need the offsetting income.
Exactly. So the only thing, and I've had a ton of people, try to ask me how to get creative. The only thing I can suggest in that situation is to potentially rent your property out, okay, for a year so you can get it documented on your tax returns, and then go rent somewhere for a year, okay? After that year's up, hopefully interest rates will still be low. We don't know. I don't have the crystal ball, and that's why I said it's kind of a leap of faith if you do something like that. But you could then turn around and after that year's time go and buy your new home with as low as a 3.5% down payment. So there's options and there's way around things, but you need to be probably thinking about it now, because not everything can just happen tomorrow. In that circumstance, it's going to take you at least a year. Reach out to me if you have any questions, concerns. 877-245-2030. When we come back, will the Mortgage Forgiveness Act be extended? I'm getting a lot of questions from listeners. I wanted to dive into that one more time. Stay right there.